guys we're hearing about running. But hey, Bo, appreciate the call, my friend. All right, those on hold, hang with us. We've got a special guest who's joining us right now. One of my favorite guests from the Trends Research Institute and the publisher of the Trends Journal, Gerald Celente, joining us on the hotline. And Gerald, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you, Jeff?
Great. Happy New Year to you.
The same to you.
I'm looking at your one of your recent publications, the top 11 trends of 2011, and I was hoping maybe we could go through some of those for our callers, for our listeners.
Sure.
The first one is the wake-up call. Tell us about that.
Well, people, if they don't know what's going on now, they're never going to know. So after all of the political jive talk and the Federal Reserve doublespeak, people will realize that there's no recovery. The only recovery is that the bigs got bigger and the uber rich got uber richer, because that's where all the money went. The $13 trillion that was lent, spent, and guaranteed in loans that the Federal Reserve in D.C. doled out since 2009, and the other $20 trillion that the Federal Reserve funneled to banks around the world, that was unknown to all of us, except for that one-time reporting because of the Dodd-Frank bill. And this went to Bank of Japan, South Korea, England, Ireland, Spain, France, Netherlands, Canada, to companies like General Electric, Verizon, hedge funds, you name it, they got the money, Harley-Davidson. So when you look at the current events forming future trends, let's take a look at today's new claims for unemployment.
Up. Yeah.
Higher than expected. I love that white shoe boy language. Higher than expected by whom? The frauds? The people trying to suck you into the markets to play a rigged game? Are those who is higher than expected? Let's look at yesterday's data that came out on housing prices. They've fallen to Great Depression era levels. Let's call a spade a spade. And the spade is the greatest depression is underway. It's going on in Europe, and it's happening here. They're just not putting it in that context.
You know, Gerald, I keep hearing and reading about this recovery, economic numbers looking good. And it's just a lot of spin going on. And what about these numbers that we got last week about unemployment going down to 9.4%? Were those real numbers?
No, because the reason it went down is because, like they did in the former Soviet Union, they cooked the books over here. Once you're off the rolls, you're no longer unemployed. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's like how they're shafting people with their COLA increases, saying that there's no inflation.
Right.
So when you look at John Williams' shadow statistics, for example, they're looking at unemployment over 20%.
Yeah.
And then look at the jobs that are being created. Hey, you want a job, stocking shelves at Walmart at 1 in the morning? I got one for you. How about a cashier at a 7-Eleven? Maybe not. Maybe a home health aide making $62.50 a week. I mean, come on. This whole game is rigged. The rich are getting richer than ever before, and that's not hyperbole. It's a fact. The gap between the rich and the poor is the widest in the United States of any of the industrialized nations.
One of the other trends that you're predicting for 2011 is the crack up. Among your top trends for last year was the crash of 2010. The stock market didn't crash, but what did crash?
The European markets. We made it very clear in our Trends Journal when we made that forecast in the winter of 2009 that we were not talking about the stock market, that we would see some equity, currency, or other financial crash that would occur. And the markets in Europe have crashed in terms of the euro. Look what's going on. I mean, you can't make up a better line than this one. The Japanese and Chinese coming to the rescue, buying worthless bonds from Spain and Portugal and Ireland. So, yeah, the system has crashed, but they're holding it up with this digital money not worth the paper it's not printed on. And we never knew they're going to keep changing the games. So, for example, back in the European Monetary Union, under the Maastricht and Lisbon treaties, they're never going to bail out a failing country, except when they have to do it, is the new line. And they did it with Greece. They did it with Ireland. They're going to do it with Portugal, Spain, Italy, Brussels. The crash is going to continue. But again, they're devaluing the currencies in front of our eyes. So what they're doing is they're propping it up to keep the Ponzi game going and keep the suckers playing at the table.
But with every Ponzi game, it's going to crash at some point, correct?
Exactly. But again, they keep coming up with these schemes undreamed of.
Yeah.
Who would have ever believed, as I said, we're talking about between 15 to 20 trillion, that's with a T, worth of money that the Federal Reserve funneled to these companies and banks that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And we would have never known about that had it not been for the Dodd-Frank bill. How could you make this stuff up? The Federal Reserve has taken over the country. It was the greatest concern throughout the 1800s that the central banks would control the system, and now they have. So the central banks, meaning when you say it, it means central banks of Europe, of Japan, and China. And speaking of China, look what's going on now. They're trading the yuan, their currency, as a global currency, and they're taking over the United States in terms of military power. They're not going to have the military muscle, but they'll have the strategic power, and also in finance. What are they holding? $3 trillion worth of reserve currencies,
right.
And we're a nation $14 trillion in debt. Do the math.
And, of course, we're getting ready to the point where they're going to ask for an increase in the debt ceiling, right? That's going to be coming up in March, if I'm not mistaken.
That's going to keep coming up, and what they're going to keep doing is squeezing the people. They're going to screw the people at every level. They're doing, look what they just did in Illinois, raising the taxes.
67%.
They're doing in California.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one after another. They're going to, every license, parking meter fee, you name it.
Right.
The dim-witted bureaucrats that never come up with a bright idea in their lives are going to come up with every way to get every penny, last nickel and dime that they could get from the people.
Yeah.
They're going to nickel and dime us to death so
right.
they can keep their jobs.
And what they're doing down here, red light cameras, where any kind of little violation, you get a $7,500 ticket in the mail. And
yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it? While the big crooks get away scot-free. The police have become nothing more than enforcers for the crime bosses. Have you seen any big heads roll from the Wall Street scandals? Not a one. Oh, there's Bernie Madoff, but he's really not the big guy. Nobody from the Goldman Sachs gang. Charles Schwab just got hit with a $115 million fine yesterday. Nobody does jail time. This Ratner guy in New York, they call it pay for play. You know, these white shoe boy names. He gets a fine. Nobody does jail time, and they can't break the gangs. The cops aren't smart enough to do that. So who do they go after? They go after us. Like you said, they have cameras. They're watching every step. Here's one for you, Jeff. About a week and a half ago, a little girl was jaywalking in Nevada. She got hit by a car and is in a coma, and the cops showed up and gave her a ticket for jaywalking, her parents.
That's just despicable.
Yeah, that's what's happening all over the country. These brave police, they pull you over, they got their hand on their gun, and they're going to give you a ticket for going 7 miles over the limit. Yeah, but the big guys, they can't touch. They're cowards when it comes to that. And again, they can't break the gangs. They're too smart for them.
All right, we've got a few minutes, got a lot of people lined up. Let's see if we can squeeze in a few. For Gerald Celente, a trends researcher, it's a trends journal. Let's go to Carla in Slidell. Hey, Carla.
Hello. I would just like to say that I don't think they should raise the debt ceiling at all. I think they just need to cut out some of the stupid stuff they've already, put money aside for, and some of it that hasn't even been spent. I think, they got to hold the line, in my opinion. I'd like to say something about the memorial service, if I may.
Okay, yeah. Let Gerald respond to your first point, and then you can get to that. Go ahead.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, Carla, here's the deal. Nobody's talking about the 2 wars going on and the trillions of dollars being spent in the defense racket. Oh, that's off limits. Can't touch that. Oh, we'll cut it a tiny little bit. But that's where a lot of the money's going, and this is perfect empire decline. Draining the treasury and losing wars at a time when the economy is in decline. So nobody talks about that. Nobody's talking about this homeland security fraud. that set up all of this useless industry, like we had that guy Chertoff, who was the former Homeland Security guard, hawking these rapid scam
naked
X-ray machines,
naked body scanners. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the guy, and he doesn't tell you that his Chertoff group represents the company that's selling them. Yeah. So there's a lot of money to be cut, but they're not going to cut it because they're all getting a cut of the action.
Hey, Carla, hang on. I'm going to come back to you in the next segment for your comment on the Arizona ceremony last night. Let's go to Paul in Destrehan. Hey, Paul, you're on with Gerald Celente.
Hey, Mr. Celente. I hear you on Coast to Coast, and I really enjoy you. You know, you really. When are you going to run for president?
Now, what our mission is that when people find their individual greatness, they won't accept mediocrity. And that's what we do with the Trends Journal. We show them and help them, inspire them to show them different ways and opportunities. Because when the people change, everything will change. That great Hindu saying, when the people are ready, the leader will appear.
Well, thanks to you, I invested in silver, sold it at 4 times the profit, turned around and put quite a bit into palladium. And at $800 an ounce now, I then made a good profit margin in that. But what I'm trying to ask is, are they going to ever run out of gold and palladium when people wake up? Because of your program on it, I guess it had to be 3, 4, 5 years ago. But anyway, I'm just wondering if gold's going to ever run out, or is it going to go up to the point where? Just tell me what you think the future is in gold. Okay. And is there a chance of running out of gold and platinum and palladium and all that?
Okay, good question, Paul.
I don't know if they'll run out, but demand is definitely increasing. And I'm a firm believer in gold. You go to our Trends Journal at trendsjournal.com, go to the forecast page, and look at the gold bull run. We called it in the beginning when it was $275 an ounce in December 2001. And I believe, and I'm heavily invested in gold. I don't work for any gold companies. I have no advertisements. I have no interest in it, in pumping it, other than the fact that we believe that gold is going to hit $2,000 an ounce. And then we believe that the government's going to step in and try to regulate it from that point on and put a ceiling on it. That's our forecast. If it happens, it's up in the air, but we believe, and I strongly believe, that you're going to see gold $2,000 an ounce.
Hey, Paul, thanks for your call. In our final minute or so, Gerald Celente, one of your forecasts for the next year is a crackdown on liberty. That concerns me. What do you see happening?
Well, go to YouTube and look at that our Homeland Security czarette, Janet Napolitano, doing that video and telling people to go to Walmart's if they see anything that's suspicious to rat the people out. Go to the Walmart manager, I love it, or call the law enforcement. And she begins it by saying, Homeland Security begins in your hometown. And, the only thing missing in there is a heavy German accent from 1939, when the Nazi regime was in place. They have drones flying over Miami, looking in your windows, and in Houston. Big Brother's already here. I've said this before. This isn't, people say, Obama's it is fascism.
Gerald, unfortunately, we're up against the clock. We're going to do it again soon. We'll link to the site. Get more info, folks. Check out our podcast page. We'll be right back. More Ringside coming your way.